Hey guys, Stealth here and welcome to this video to discuss some early thoughts about this new game, Company of Heroes. So, Company of Heroes is out now for a day by the time that you're potentially watching this, and I have had the opportunity to get a couple of matches done. So, some initial observations. When you're coming into this game, if you don't have any prior experience with Company of Heroes, it is overwhelming. There are a lot of mechanics, a lot of things that you need to be paying attention to. You're trying to figure out the camera system, which works a little different from what you're potentially used to, in the sense that it's really zoomed in. You cannot zoom out any more than this. I was told that numpad 0 gives you a sort of zoom out feature. It does not. So in this game, this seems to be it. You're just this much zoomed in. Also, the difference in battle groups means that if you're playing the Americans and you're getting acquainted with the battle group by doing a couple of matches, and then you get another group, you're suddenly going to find that the other group works entirely different from the previous one. So if you're going from, let's say, the Americans to the Wehrmacht, one of the German groups, there is a massive difference there. There's an absolute massive difference here. By the way, I'm not playing this live, this is a replay, so I can also show you some of the graphics. That is, if the camera wants to work with me here. You can see the graphics are really good, and this potentially explains why the game is so zoomed in, because otherwise you wouldn't see this. And you'd have the risk of going, let's say, into a Warno style, where you just have a bunch of icons moving from place to place, without really getting a feel of what is going on. Now, with this camera getting so zoomed in, this one is one of the slightly less populated town maps, if you will. But if you're operating here, I mean, I had this view at some point in a different match. You're just cluttering up the screen with, what, 30-40% of the screen is now building. You can rotate the camera a bit more into an almost top-down view, but that gives you very little perspective as to what's happening on the edges of the screen. If you put it more like this, you might get a slightly better overview, but it's still a bit spotty. So it's something that I'm probably going to have to just get acquainted with. I'm going to have to get used to this level of being zoomed in. But no matter which way you turn the camera, you're always going to find that it's not quite doing what you would like it to. Now, as for the battle group system and your ability to customize things on the fly, if you will, by using the specialization, I quite like that system. Because it means that while you might know that your enemy is going with the Americans, you don't know what specialization they have. The specialization, however, also can make it a bit odd to figure out, okay, what am I fighting? And should I specifically focus on that particular specialization or not? Case in point, if you have the Americans and you focus on the armor branch, that doesn't mean that you're exclusively armor. It just means that your armored groups are better. You get all sorts of bonuses to armor, but if you have to, you can still play around infantry. So it is more of an add-on rather than a specialization in that sense. It's not you have to per se do this. Now, as for the infantry and infantry combat, I really like this. It looks really good, and you can see that this mortar team over here is having a very quick time trying to get out of dodge as my infantry squad is pushing in, my rifleman group, against this GRW 34 mortar team. As for being a team game, I thought this is also an interesting point. I am still learning the game. I haven't played Company of Heroes 2. Most of the time, it feels like I am just trying to figure out what is going on my flank. So I don't really have that much of an opportunity to figure out what my allies are doing. And if they need help, then it's going to be down to pings, which you can do with Ctrl-E, Ctrl-T, and Ctrl-R, to say, okay, I'm going to need help here, or I need to get your attention here. Because you're so zoomed in, you won't really get a lot of time to figure out where you want things to go or where you might need to pay attention. As for our teams, In this case, I am the Americans. I'm the blue team, I suppose it is. Well, let me start over. Colors are a thing in this game, because if you have a unit... let's see, do I have a unit in the open? Yes. You can see all these dots. That is whether they have decent cover, good cover, medium cover, what have you. I'm colorblind, so supposedly there's a difference between these various colors. I can only make out the difference in cover by using that shield icon. I can see a shield plus, I can just see a shield, or I can see, what was it, red cover I think it is? Which means you basically don't have any good luck. The color system is something I would very much like them to overhaul, because it means that right now, these colors for cover, they don't mean anything for me. Because for me, they're all the same. For you, if you have normal color vision, they might be red, yellow, orange, green, what have you. I don't see that. I just don't see that. Anyway, teams and figuring out whose units are whose is tricky. I can see that this is a Grenadier squad, but I cannot see whose Grenadier squad. And that makes it quite difficult to coordinate with your allies, because you're going, okay, am I working against player X, player Y, or player Z? Which one of my buddies is fighting here? Do we know what sort of specialization they have? It means it's really difficult to coordinate and figure out what you need to be bringing and how you need to be using those forces. Because right now, oh, this is a great moment, by the way. A squad was running around and they instantly get pincered by a machine gun and another squad that I had moving around. So these guys are basically screwed. You don't know who you're fighting. You do have the player list, here, player list. And here you can see whose players were on this match. But beyond that, I can't see much. So I would very much like them to implement a system where you just have hovering over an icon or hovering over a unit. It goes, ah, these are Titus units, these are Attis units, these are Gosrith units. Because I'm just guessing at this point. All the more so because I'm so unfamiliar with the units that I barely know whose units I'm fighting. I can most of the time make out whether it's riflemen or not. I can most of the time, I mean, I'll recognize a mortar team, sure. But every infantry unit seems to have its own icon, which means it's going to take a bit more time to learn to figure out what type of unit and thus what nationality you're fighting. That, of course, will just come by having more experience. As for figuring out the maps and figuring out great firing positions, I believe that this is somewhat in flux, if you will, because the maps change. Right now, for example, this building, if I were to be able to capture it with a machine gun, would be great. But buildings are destructible. And because of that, that machine gun position might work for the next 5 minutes, but beyond that, it'll be destroyed. And at that point, you're going to have to figure out a new position. So, in this sense, the maps change. And with your engineer squads, which I don't have because they're all dead, with your engineer squads you'll also be able to start getting buildings built in the battlefield. You'll be able to start building barbed wire, what you call these sandbag walls, you got tank traps, you got all those things that you can put into the area and thus influence it. And of course with a vehicle it works the other way. And you can still influence it, but it's going to be of a more destructive nature. Same for airstrikes, bombardments, what have you. As for the gameplay, I really enjoy it. It is messy. It is sometimes very, very confusing. Sometimes I just have a lot of units on the field, and it doesn't feel like I have a lot of units on the field. Right now I have 8, but I'm already forgetting about this rifleman squad. They're just kind of sitting there going, yeah, I don't know what I need to be doing either. So they're just sitting there, waiting for further orders. But because I'm so caught up in managing this part and customizing a unit in the way that I like it, which in this case is a medical half-track, I'm going, okay, I'm working on my forces here. Oh crap, I'm under attack. And in the meanwhile, I'm just completely forgetting this squad, which could have bolstered my firepower substantially on the front line. So again, it is part of the learning process. It is part of things that you'll just have to take some time to get used to. But for now, it is something that is probably going to hamper my gameplay. And if you're new to the game and you're not a complete multitasking talent, you might also suffer from this issue. So if you're newer to the game, or if you're new to the whole Company of Heroes series, then potentially you're going to find that you don't have a lot of stuff. Or that you have half your stuff back at base, because this rifleman squad is now joined by another one, and I completely forgot about them, because I'm managing this one vehicle here. But this vehicle right now is doing a very important job for me. This is an M16 multiple gun motor carriage, quad 50 cal, and I was using it to start raiding their lines and start mopping up all these mortar teams that were around. By the way, look at the detail here. You can actually see this guy writhing on the ground. Not for the faint of heart. Sometimes you can also see your troops pick somebody up the moment that they start to try and carry their wounded back to base. Now, at this point, of course, this 251 is not particularly happy about it, and I was trying to communicate this with my team, going, hey guys, there's a 251 over there, and it's... I don't know whose player that is, or whose unit that is. So, stuff like that, you're just going to have to, I don't know, wait for a patch, or not particularly care whose unit you're fighting. I mean, in the end, red is bad and blue is good, pretty much, but it can still be confusing. Now again, as for the gameplay, I really like it. Confusing and messy as it is, I enjoy figuring out what works with these battle groups. I enjoy figuring out, okay, so the Americans work this way, but if I want to start killing vehicles with the British, I'm going to have to bring an entirely different battle group. Or I'm going to have to, not an entirely different battle group, an entire different force composition in order to get the damage in that I need. So, in that sense, you're going to have to accept that the first couple of times that you're playing a new battle group will suck. Because you simply won't be acquainted with them. You won't know what sort of units they have, where to find them, and where to find the upgrades. Because upgrading vehicles is also something that upgrading anything, not even strictly vehicles, is something that you really have to start paying attention to. Because in some nationalities, that means that, let's say the American infantry group, the rifleman squads, I can upgrade them to have Browning automatic rifles. That upgrade sits on the infantry itself. I can also upgrade the whole infantry squad to have frag grenades. But that is not part of the upgrade. This one requires a bar researched from the barracks. Okay, so that's this one probably. Because in order to get the infantry the upgrade that they want, I'm first going to have to allow that for global upgrades. So first you're doing this upgrade, then you're doing this upgrade. And then keep in mind that this upgrade only works for this unit. It doesn't work for everybody, it works for this unit. Which, especially if you have 3 infantry squads, means that you're going to be looking and going, okay, I have 3 rifleman squads. One of those is equipped with the sprint ability, for example. One of them has the pour it on them, which increases fire rate. Which one was which again? The British have a similar issue. Let's see if I can find a British group. The Brits, yeah. These Brits can get a flamethrower. Oh, sorry, this is Germans. Flamethrower, they can get a hazard removal package, or a grenade launcher. But I believe it's or. It's not and. So I found this to be quite confusing. And especially trying to keep track of everything. Trying to keep track of every unit. And trying to keep track of whether or not they need to get healed up. What ability is on cooldown. What ability is available. That's a lot of work. You're just going into overwhelm. Or maybe not you specifically, but I am. I'm going, okay, this rifleman group, they're healthy now, I'm moving them up. I forgot to upgrade them with either sprint or port on them. I know that they have their sticky bomb and their frag grenade, so I have options there. But beyond that, I'm not really micromanaging them. And it feels like you're trying to micromanage every unit, because you're trying to keep them upgraded. You're trying to sort of macro-manage all of your units to figure out where you want what unit to go. And in case that you're dealing with a vehicle here, I need to be managing my units in order to deal effective damage against this tank. If I don't do that, then this tank is just kind of going to sit there. But only because I ran up to it and hit it with a sticky bomb do I know that it's going to be dead. If my infantry would just have been sitting there, you wouldn't have had this wrecked Stewart over here. If you're coming from a different strategy game, and I'm going to compare it to war game in this situation, if I have an ATGM infantry or an anti-tank guided missile infantry, I know that if they have missiles, they're going to fire at a vehicle. If my infantry, in Company of Heroes, has an anti-tank weapon, that does not mean that they'll take initiative and start using that anti-tank weapon all by themselves. Nope, that's something you have to manage yourself. You have to figure that out. You have to give them the orders to start using that weapon. And I understand why. Because in this game, you have the resource called munitions. If I want to throw a frag grenade with this squad, it's going to cost me 25 munitions from my supply. So yes, I understand that you want to be a little bit more cautious with your abilities, if you will, so that the AI doesn't start spending every single bit of munitions, so that perhaps you won't be able to call in a resupply or a special forces commando because you're already using your manpower or munitions or what have you. So yeah, in that sense I get it, but at the same time I'm going, okay, it means that I don't exactly get all the opportunity to use my units to the best of my ability, because I simply can't be everywhere. I simply can't be everywhere. Right now I got a whole squad, once again, sitting here doing nothing, because I'm so engrossed in this fight against this Stug that I'm trying to micromanage these guys and using all their grenades. Meanwhile trying to figure out, oh, okay, I'm engaging this thing from the front, where it has more armor than the side. So ideally, I should first be using the infantry group to go all the way around, and then hit this thing from the back, knocking out its engine. So you're constantly trying to micromanage everything, you're constantly trying to macromanage everything, and you're trying to coordinate with your allies. And right now, I think that's a lot to do. I'm not that good at the game yet. I hope that this is going to come with experience. I hope that this is something that is just part of the learning process, and that it's going to eventually become second nature, or at least a lot easier. Right now, I'm not there yet. Right now, I'm just not there yet. Overall, especially with the specializations that you can get, the commander points, the units with all their various upgrades, the ways that you can get your force composition going. Do you want to focus a lot on infantry? Do you want to save some manpower? Do you want to put more emphasis on getting more munitions so you can get more of your abilities used, but that means more micromanagement? You got so many different options with playstyle that on the one hand it's overwhelming, and on the other hand it's really liberating because you can play exactly how you want. Of course, one of the first casualties with playing how you want and with trying to manage everything is that you're mostly going, okay, this scout squad is perfectly healthy, fine, I need to manage them. But you don't actually look at what they're doing. Whereas if you zoom in, you can really admire how much detail has gone into this tank. You can really admire how much work has gone into modeling the vehicle. But you'll be most of the time too busy to actually get a good bit of time to zoom in on it and just admire the handiwork. Admire the craftsmanship that goes into designing this Flampanzer III. Now here we got another Stug. Time to hit him with one of my sticky bombs, and boom. Crew is in shock. That's going to stun them a little bit, allowing my Chaffee to start potentially getting a chance to move in. That unfortunately was a miss at very short range. You can see I just don't have enough front armor. Oh, I don't have an armor anywhere to start dealing with this particular vehicle. Got another bit of damage in on him, but he's pulling back, so I should be fine. Now, as for the match, we ended up winning it, but I've lost plenty of matches just trying to get up to this point. Trying to figure out, okay, what battle group or what faction suits me best? What battle group as a subsection of that suits me best? How am I going to play this best? You're going to spend a lot of time learning. And I think that's good, because it means that the game has a lot of opportunity to keep getting played. It has a high replayability. It has a lot of different factors that you can influence to just mix and match and optimize your playstyle. So would I recommend getting it? Yes, I really enjoy it, and I definitely want to play more, even if it can be frustrating at times, as you don't have the overview, as you're losing units, as you're going, oh crap, I forgot about another unit which is just sitting in cover not doing anything. These guys, for example, arguably aren't doing anything. It can be a frustrating ride. It can also be really rewarding when it actually works out. And I hope that with more experience, I'm going to just get substantially better at the game. And I'll be potentially going into more ranked matches, trying to take on better opponents, and trying to get more victories. Anyway, those are my thoughts. Let me know what your thoughts are down below. I hope you guys have been enjoying the video. And let me know down below in the comments. What do you think? Do you like it? Do you not like it? Are you a veteran? Is this simply Company of Heroes 2, which is a comment I've been seeing quite a lot? Like Company of Heroes 2 with a change or something? Let me know down below in the comments. I look forward to seeing your stories. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you soon for more videos.